Hi, this is the Business Guy, and in this video, we're going to talk about what the perfect asset protection plan looks like. I'm the CEO of Asset Protection Planners, the nation's largest asset protection firm. And the first thing that we need to know before we set up an asset protection plan is what is the level of risk and what are the assets that the person has to protect. So the level of risk could be somebody's in a lawsuit, divorce, or other maybe high-risk profession. We just had a gentleman contact us yesterday, and he was an obstetrician gynecologist, which is one of the most sued professions. Another one is anesthesiologist. Those are very, very highly sued professions. And so construction, so on, real estate. It depends on the level of risk. So if you're in a lawsuit, or if you have one coming, or if you're just in a very risky profession that gets sued a lot, then it's really important to get an asset protection plan set up and get it set up as early as possible, because the sooner you get it set up, the better it can protect you. So now we know, once we know the level of risk, whether somebody's already in a lawsuit or could be facing one or very high risk profession, then the next thing we need to know is, okay, what assets do you have to protect? So categories of assets could be, for example, cash, like stock, liquid assets, things that can easily be sold for cash. And then there's real estate is another common asset that people want to protect. There's a business interest. Somebody owns a corporation. They own a bunch of equipment, maybe trucks, things like that. So we need to consider all the things they own and put every asset in an appropriate slot. Let's give an example. Say somebody just has $2.7 million in a stock market portfolio. They have $500,000 sitting around cash in the bank. Guy has a corporation that owns, say, a trucking business, trucking company, for example. So that's maybe worth a couple $1 million in equipment in that corporation. Then he also has a personal residence, and let's say 4 rental properties that are each $500,000, and they're paid off. So how would we approach something like that? Okay, so the guy's in a lawsuit or about ready to get served. It could be anything. It could be anything from getting into a car wreck and then being sued for more than the insurance covers. It could be some kind of contract breach. We've had people who invested in real estate. They invested in the project, and the project didn't complete. The economy went crash, and they weren't able to meet their obligations because the properties weren't selling. For example, these kind of things happen. So whatever the situation is, let's say for liquid assets, the strongest asset protection tool there is, let's look at the different options. There's a domestic trust, for example, one in Nevada, Delaware, Wyoming, Alaska, South Dakota. There's the international trust. And what we found as far as those alternatives is that with the international trust, the assets are placed beyond the reach of the local courts. With the domestic trust, the assets are in the reach of the local courts. So less than half of the domestic trust asset challenges, less than half does the settler or beneficiary of the trust win. The plaintiff wins in most of the cases. The majority of the cases, the one suing, the one that has the domestic trust wins and is able to seize the assets. I've been in the asset protection field for 32 years. I've set up more offshore trusts than anybody in the world. I've personally set up more offshore trusts than anybody worldwide. We do most of those in the Cook Islands, second is Nevis, and then third is Belize. So what happens with an offshore trust is we put the assets in an international safe account. In fact, if somebody's afraid of offshore, Google it yourself. The world's safest banks. And some people think, well, gosh, probably 95% of them are in America. No, only 5% are. Let's see, that'd be 45 of the banks that are on the list, last I checked, were outside of the U.S. And the safest bank on the list, last time I checked, I think it was number 35 on the list. So there are 34 banks in the world, and even the safest U.S. bank. All the U.S. banks on the 50 safest banks list were on the bottom half of the list. So if you think only U.S. has safe banks and everywhere else is scary, well, think again. It's absolutely not the case. The safest banks in the world are outside the U.S., not inside the U.S. So now we have the safety concern handled. And we'll use banks in Switzerland, which are more stable. They use less leverage than U.S. banks do. For as long as I've been in the business, I've never heard of a Swiss bank failing, certainly not any that we've set up for clients. So we have an international trust. I like the Cook Islands. Nevis is also very good, about equal. And so when the U.S. courts say, give me the money, the assets in the offshore trust are in an international account, again, beyond the reach of the local courts. The reason why the domestic trusts don't work is because it's within the reach of the local courts. Let's say there's a domestic trustee and the judge tells the trustee, turn over the money or we're going to fine you personally. Turn over the money, we're going to hold you in contempt and we're going to incarcerate you until you turn over the money. Well, what do you think that domestic trustee is going to do? going to give up his own money or going to give up yours? We both know what's going to happen. Think he's going to sit in jail for you? Heck no. He's going to do what the judge says. And that's the reason why the domestic trusts just simply don't work very well. International Trust, our international law firm, very trusted group. We've had a relationship with our head trustee in the Cook Islands, for example, for 27 years. I've personally known her for 27 years. And I personally have my money, and they're the only signature on the account. It's an international account, and I have a Cook Islands trust for myself and my family. That's what I've chosen. So U.S. courts say, give me the money. I'll say, okay, I'll tell the trustee to hand it over. Well, they can't hold me in contempt because I'm cooperating. And I'm telling the trustee, hey, turn the money over because the judge just told me to. So I'm complying with the order to the best of my ability. The offshore trustee, however, company, it's not one person, it's a law firm. They are not under the jurisdiction of the U.S. courts. They don't have to comply. They don't have to comply with subpoenas. They say, give us this information, give us these records. They say, sorry, you don't have jurisdiction down here. This is a different independent country. You can't tell us what to do. And so the money is safe and secure. It's safe from subpoena, so you have greater privacy. You still have to pay your taxes. You report the taxes, so you're legal. But you don't have to worry about the U.S. courts going in there and seizing the money. And what about real estate? Okay, real estate's another story. Real estate is a domestic asset. And ideally, everything's liquidated and put into an international account within the offshore trust structure. That's the strongest asset protection there is. Real estate is unmovable, immovable. You can't put that in an offshore bank. So what we do there is, if we put the U.S. real estate into an offshore trust, a judge could say, whoop-de-doo, I don't care if you have this trust, I'm taking it anyway because it's in my jurisdiction. What we have to do instead is we do something called equity stripping. First, we employ privacy techniques. Hopefully your opponent doesn't know that you have it, so it discourages litigation. And we do that by putting the properties into land trusts. These are privacy devices, not asset protection devices. And then if it's a rental property, other than your personal residence, we have LLCs, limited liability companies, as the beneficiaries of the land trust, which provide a nice secondary level of asset protection. So those are important, and it also keeps you from personal litigation should a tenant sue. So it's also good to do it for that reason. The big thing is that we need to take this asset and put it in a place where U.S. courts can't touch it. So what we do is we call equity stripping. That's we record initially an equity line of credit mortgage against the property, so there's no money changing hands. And then when the property comes under legal attack, would you rather lose the property or have an equity stripping mortgage on it that makes it very, very unattractive? It's a matter of losing it altogether, and those are the two options. Well, you'd probably rather keep the property and have an equity stripping lien on it. And then we put the proceeds from that lien into your offshore trust. Okay, so an equity stripping lien, initially it's a line of credit. And then that line of credit is eventually monetized when it needs to be, protect you. And then we put that money and we put it in your offshore trust. And the offshore trust is not money you can run away and spend. And think about it, that'd be too risky to the lender to have a property in the U.S. and then an international lender lending money where you can run away with the money and they have to go to the U.S. courts to foreclose or take the property. Not going to do that. So you're not able to, run away with the money. But it shows the judge that a true third-party lender has gotten involved and you receive the bona fide proceeds. So there's nothing they can really say legally other than this is a legal, legitimate lien or mortgage on the property. So you suck out the good things, the equity in the property, which is what somebody wants. They want to be able to seize your real estate, sell it, and get the money from it. That's what they're looking for. You make that very unattractive when you do the equity stripping strategies, okay? What about a business? Similar strategy. A lien against a business is typically a UCC1, Uniform Commercial Code 1 form. Record that against the corporation or whatever form of business there is, LLC or sole proprietorship. We record an equity stripping lien against the business. And then if needed, we monetize that lien by stripping it out, have a third party lender buy it, and that money is placed in your offshore trust. So it's a legitimate lien, and the property is, the business is, the equity is stripped out of it. So that's what we do for a business property. So we talked about what we do for liquid assets like stock market investments. I go online and do my stock trades in the international bank account. I can see my bank account balance, stock portfolio I have. There's also some of the best money managers in the world are in Switzerland. Talk about people that can make your money grow at 8 to 15% per year on a long-term average in the stock market, or higher sometimes. The best money managers in the world are in Switzerland, and the safest banks in the world in Switzerland. Look for yourself. So that's what we do for liquid assets. Okay, that's what we do for real estate, and that's what we do for a business interest. Liquid assets include cash and also stock market investment. So that's what the perfect asset protection plan looks like, and those are the different tools that we use. And so if you have any more questions, you can get some more free information at assetprotectionplanners.com. That's our website. If you're serious and not just curious, you can give us a call, maybe discuss your needs and see how we can help you out. Okay, so if you appreciate this info, please click like down below. I'd like to see you again, so click subscribe and you'll see updated information as more videos come out. And I appreciate you watching, and this is The Business Guy.